I am 49 and I am a menopause chick. Last New Year's Eve, I laid in my bathtub, looked down at my body, and I did something I had never done before. I said, thank you. I said, thank you for giving me 2 amazing children. Thank you for carrying me this far on my journey, and knowing that I would most likely reach menopause in 2016, I promised it a party. Now, I tell you this because 10 years ago, that scene looked very different. I still went to the bathtub to retreat, but it was often to curl up in a ball, rock back and forth, and try to figure out what was going on in my mind and in my body. I was experiencing things I knew nothing about. I had chronic sleep deprivation, chronic brain fog, and nobody had warned me there was something called perimenopausal rage. But I could come unglued without warning. In fact, I would say to my husband, I think this is the beginning of dementia. Did you see the title of this talk and think, I don't need to know about menopause yet? Well, that's okay. You are not alone. The word menopause makes us feel uncomfortable. What did you think of when I first said menopause? Hot, tired, old, the beginning of the end? That's okay. Often women will give me a much longer list. They tell me things like irregular periods, heavy bleeding, anxiety, acne, loss of libido, less hair where they want it, more hair where they don't, and moodiness and rage. But what if you saw the word menopause and you thought wise, confident, beautiful? We'd have a gap. You see, the way we think about menopause is ruining our ability to enjoy it. We've adopted society's views and advertisers, and somewhere along the line, we learned that menopause is taboo. Now, perhaps that's because Google gives us the gray-haired lady with the fan. And bookstores shelve our books underneath a sign that reads ailments and disorders. And magazines, like this magazine that I pulled off the newsstand just last month. The cover shouted, "Hooray for hormones!" And I thought, finally, a positive article about midlife. But inside, I learned that at 30, you become the Pillsbury Dough girl. And at 40, you lose your mind. And at 50, you pee your pants. This doesn't look like a party to me. I turn 50 in a few months, and I realize it's not menopause that fascinates me. It's what women are willing to put up with. Does the next generation want to adopt these stereotypes? Do we? Sure, don't get me wrong. Weight gain, brain fog, urinary incontinence, they are real and they are common. And I talk with women every day who are navigating their own set of challenges. But the good news is we can learn to navigate those challenges. We must first unlearn the media innuendo, the cultural myths, and the misinformation. What if, instead of being the beginning of the end, it was the beginning? Now, remember how I thought I had dementia? Well, I finally decided to address it with my doctor. This is me, flat on my back, naked, except for that gown the size of a Post-it note. And as she gently pried my knees apart, I prepared to say menopause for the first time. So after my pap, my doctor said, "Anything else?" And I said, "Yes, I think I'm showing the first signs of menopause." Well, she looked at me, and then she looked at my chart, and she said, "Oh, you're 41. You're too young." And I know she said something about birth control pills, sleeping pills, and Prozac, but honestly, I couldn't hear her because the voice inside my head was screaming, "Shirley, suck it up." And I left her office that day, confused and embarrassed. But I couldn't help but wonder, am I the only one? So I embarked on some research. I was on a quest. I wanted women to be prepared for perimenopause, at least in the same way we prepare our children for puberty. I talked with hundreds of women, and do you know what 70% of them told me? They said they had no one to talk to about menopause, or that they would never talk about menopause with anyone. And that's when I knew this was more than cracking open the conversation. We have to change the conversation. We have to stop painting menopause with the big, giant negative brush and find a new way to see menopause through new eyes. One day, a young reporter called me, and I quickly launched into everything I had been learning. Menopause is one day. It's the 12-month anniversary of your very last period. The average age of menopause is 51.2. Perimenopause is the 5 to 15 years leading up to menopause, and it's a phase of our lives where the majority of the hormone fluctuations occur. And perimenopause can start as early as our mid to late 30s. And I went on to tell her how there is very little research on perimenopause. In fact, if your grandmother said going through menopause, she probably meant going through perimenopause. And I wanted to tell this reporter all the stats. 20% of women sail through. 20% of women have their worlds rocked upside down. And for the remaining 60% of us, we experience things that are both annoying and disruptive. But this reporter, she interrupted me, and she said, "Wow, you sound like you're the smartest you've ever been." I was stunned. I had read a lot about menopause, and none of it said anything about making me smarter. But then I considered her words. What if she was right? I am smart. I am confident. I am beautiful. So if I can take the inconvenient aspects of perimenopause and park them over to the side for just a minute, I realize that midlife is shining this big, bright light on who I am, what I want in my life, my relationships, my career. It's giving me an opportunity to make self-care a priority, and look, that's my own name at the top of the to-do list. That reporter, she gave me an amazing gift that day. She inspired me not to miss one part of this beautiful unfolding. Will you help me write a new script for menopause? This is important. It affects 100% of women. Can we reframe menopause to navigate the challenges and celebrate the positives? Can we imagine a future where women no longer feel alone, embarrassed, or ashamed? And where it's okay to say menopause at the cocktail party? And don't unsubscribe from the media. We need them to help us tell this story, but call them on it when they get it wrong. Chances are they never thought about giving menopause a makeover before. And when we make positive, intentional word choices, guess what? Women will actually look forward to midlife. And that's a good thing, because if we're going to live to be 100, we're going to spend over half of our lives there. So I've changed my mindset on menopause, and now I invite you to change yours. Can we replace hot with whole, bitchy with beautiful? And what if the next time you hear the phrase hot flash, you think pleasure or orgasm? Yes, what if hot flashes were like orgasms? Women would be feeling that power surge, and we'd all be looking over and saying, I'll have what she's having.